Good afternoon. My name is Joy Dube, and here with the breaking news report. President Donald Trump praised the strength of U.S.-China relations during a state banquet hosted by Chinese President Xi Jinping, underscoring centuries of cultural and economic ties between the two nations. President Trump thanked Xi for what he described as a magnificent welcome, noting the grandeur of the reception and the symbolism of the banquet. He referenced Chinese contributions to early American history, highlighting cultural exchanges and trade links that predate modern diplomatic relations.
Rise up to this historic responsibility and steer the giant ship of China-US relations forward, steadily and in the right direction.
最后，我提议为中美两国发展繁荣和人民幸福，为中美关系的美好未来和两国人民的友谊，为特朗普总统以及在座的各位朋友的健康干杯。
Now please join me in a toast to the development and prosperity of China and the United States and the well-being of our people, to the bright future of China-US relations and the friendship between the two peoples, and to the health of President Trump and all the friends present. Cheers.
干杯。
Cheers.
Well, thank you very much. This is a great honor. It was a fantastic day. And in particular, I want to thank President Xi, my friend, for this magnificent welcome. And it really was a magnificent welcome like none other. And for so graciously hosting us on this very historic state visit. We had extremely positive and productive conversations and meetings today with the Chinese delegation earlier, and this evening is another cherished opportunity to discuss among friends some of the things that we discussed today, all good for the United States and for China, and it was a great honor to be with you. Please.
感谢习近平主席。今天我们度过了非常美好的一天。首先要感谢
Vice President J.D. Vance fielded questions from reporters yesterday on the status of U.S.-Iran peace negotiations, especially after the latest proposal from Iran that President Trump had to reject.
Can I ask you, Mr. Vice President, when approaching the war with Iran, do you agree with the President's position that Americans' financial situations should not be a consideration in that decision-making process?
Well, I don't think the President said that. I think that's a misrepresentation of what the President said. But look, I agree with the President that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. We're obviously engaged in a very aggressive and very engaged diplomatic process to try to ensure that that doesn't happen. And the President has a lot of options, as he said repeatedly. There are options diplomatically, there are options on the military side, but the fundamental goal here is the President wants to make the world safe, but particularly the American people safe from Iran having a nuclear weapon. And one final point I'll say on that is, nuclear proliferation is one of those challenges that people don't realize. It's the biggest threat to America's national security, and it's not obvious until it is. Because what happens if Iran gets a nuclear weapon? Then multiple Gulf Arab countries are going to want to get a nuclear weapon. Then multiple countries from there are going to want to get a nuclear weapon. The goal of preventing nuclear proliferation is probably the single most important thing that we can do to keep our people safe for the long term. It's absolutely a worthy goal. But of course, the President and I and the entire team, we care about the American people's financial situations. It's one of the reasons why we passed the Working Families Tax Cut. It's one of the reasons why we're so focused on fraud. We care about how the American people are doing economically. We've also got a number of other challenges. Of course, the President has to confront all these challenges simultaneously.
And can you tell us where negotiations stand? The President, before he left for Beijing, called the latest proposal unacceptable. So is the U.S. even talking to the Iranians right now, or where are things at this point?
Yeah, so look, obviously these negotiations are very sensitive. I'm not going to tell you everything because we're trying to have a productive conversation. I spent a good amount of time on the phone with both Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff this morning, a number of our friends in the Arab world this morning. Look, I think that we are making progress. The fundamental question is, do we make enough progress that we satisfy?
During a Senate hearing, CENTCOM Commander General Michael Cooper revealed that in the months leading up to Operation Fury, Iran and its proxies, Hezbollah, Houthis, Iraqi militias, had escalated their campaign against U.S. forces to unprecedented levels, carrying out more than 300 attacks compared to previous periods. Cooper said the escalation is proof that Iran was preparing for confrontation, not deterrence, and that U.S. forces had to act decisively.
February 28th, months prior to that, what was jarring to you that you saw different than what had been for those many decades that you've been involved?
I think it's important to note just in the 30 months before Epic Fury commenced, Iran and its proxies had been attacking U.S. service members and diplomats about 350 times.
Can you repeat
about
that?
About every third day. Iran and its proxies attacked American service members 350 times in the Middle East.
I don't think that Americans were aware of that in the 30 months that they had attacked Americans or their service members 350 times. Does that surprise you that I would say that? That I don't believe the everyday American going to work knew that?
It's disappointing, but between the actions of proxies in Iraq and Syria, as well as the Houthis, that's simply the fact of what happened.
And the months leading up to that decision, that very serious decision on February the 28th, what were your concerns regarding the proliferation of missiles or the ability of the United States to do anything if that nuclear threat escalated?
Senator, in this venue, what I would say is, since our number one priority is to prevent a nuclear-capable Iran, I always, every day, focused on that problem. But what we saw in the weeks and months leading up to Epic Fury was an increase in the production capability of ballistic missiles, which presented a very significant risk both to the partners and ourselves, and this is why it was part of our military objectives.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated in Jerusalem that without Israel's two most dangerous military operations against Iran, the country would already possess a nuclear bomb today. His remarks framed these operations as decisive in preventing Iran from crossing the nuclear threshold. Netanyahu was referring to Operation Rising Lion and subsequent targeted strikes which Israel carried out against Iran's nuclear enrichment and weaponization programs.
ריסקנו חלקים גדולים מציר הרשע האיראני שכיתר אותנו מכל עבר. הרחקנו מעלינו סכנה קיומית מיידית של פצצות גרעין ואלפי טילים בליסטיים אותם פיתחה איראן. אני מבקש לומר לכם, יקיריי, אם לא היינו עושים את שני מבצעי האריות, עם כלביא ושאגת הארי, לאיראן כבר היה פצצת גרעין היום. היא הייתה בדרך לארסנל גרעיני. זה הישג כביר, שרק דפי ההיסטוריה ירשמו אותו במלוא משמעותו. ואכן המרחב שלנו מוסיף לגוש. אבל הפכנו את היוצרות. משטר האימים באיראן חלש מאי פעם, ומדינת ישראל חזקה מאי פעם. העוצמה שהפעלנו בחזיתות המערכה, הברית הקרובה מתמיד עם ממשל הנשיא טראמפ בארצות הברית, הנחישות להכות את מבקשי נפשנו בעומק שטחם, הרחק מגבולותינו, אזורי החיץ שיצרנו סביבנו, בעזה, בלבנון, בסוריה, כל אלה שינו את פני המזרח התיכון. אנחנו נוסיף להיאבק בתקיפות בכל איום של האסלאם הרדיקלי. בד בבד נרחיב את שיתוף הפעולה עם הגורמים המתונים באזורנו שהפנימו את היתרונות של הושטת יד לישראל.
Health Secretary Wes Streeting has resigned from government, declaring he has lost confidence in Prime Minister Keir Starmer's leadership. Streeting's departure marks the most senior cabinet resignation since the controversy over Starmer's handling of the Peter Mandelson ambassador appointment and subsequent security clearance fallout. The move intensifies pressure on Starmer, who has already faced calls to step down from opposition figures and growing dissent within Labour ranks. Streeting's resignation is expected to deepen divisions inside the party and raise questions about the government's stability at a time of heightened political scrutiny. That's all the breaking news updates for now. Be sure to stay connected with any of our Love networks as we bring you ongoing updates and the latest developments also from the Middle East. And right now we move into more updates from around the globe. Let's take a look at some headlines. ANC Secretary General says efforts to remove Ramaphosa doomed to fail. Washington imposed sanctions on Kabila for alleged M23 support. BRICS foreign ministers confront global instability in New Delhi talks. Nigeria seeks Beijing's help in refinery rehabilitation drive. The African National Congress has closed ranks around South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, rejecting mounting pressure over the Parapara scandal. Secretary General Fikile Mbalula declared that attempts to remove Ramaphosa from office are doomed to fail, insisting the party will not be bullied into turning against its leader.
Know that if somebody comes with a motion of no confidence, you need 50% plus one. And then when you want to remove the president, you need 2/3 majority. Nobody will remove the president here without us if they come even with impeachment. So they put it as though it's something easy. And therefore we are blackmailed left and right and to subvert and ignore the processes that need to be followed. Without due process, and as though it's a given that when you put impeachment on the table on the president, they will win. It's not possible. But the ANC equally will not be cajoled or be bullied in this process. But we will talk as we do with everybody.
The U.S. Treasury and State Department imposed sanctions on former DR Congo President Joseph Kabila on April 30, 2026, accusing him of materially supporting Rwanda-backed M23 rebels and their political arm, the Congo River Alliance. This move has sparked sharp political divisions in Kinshasa, with allies warning of destabilization and opponents hailing accountability. Former President Kabila has always maintained his innocence.
The American sanctions justify what I have been saying all along. They have now noted what I noted some time back, and you shouldn't take the Americans for children. They are people who may know what is happening in our country better than we do.
More stories coming up after this short break. Stay with us.
Hello everyone, did you know that we have a new UI on the SP's Wallet app? All you have to do is go to your Loveworld App Store and update, and you will find a way more easier way to navigate on your SP's wallet. Delicious. And now with this new user interface, you can easily access SPs Max using the exchange button, Richer with SPs using the savings button, or spcart.com using the shop button. So this makes it easy for you to go ahead and access any one of those platforms. Also, Giving to Church has now also been brought to the homepage. So again, if you want to give during service, you can easily do so right from the very first page. Can I please get the bill? All right, thank you. And lastly, you can now switch accounts simply by going to the 3 lines top left, then tap account, and right underneath your username there is the switch account button, so you can manage multiple SP wallets just from the single app. So we hope you enjoy using the new SPs Wallet app. Thank you so much. 3.5 SPs. Great. Transfer successful. Have a great time using SPs. Bye.
India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar warned that the world is in considerable flux as the Iran conflict, oil volatility and global economic uncertainty reshape international stability. Speaking at the BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting, Jaishankar urged the bloc to strengthen political coordination to safeguard supply chains and development priorities.
Good morning and a warm welcome to India for this meeting of the BRICS Ministers of Foreign Affairs and International Relations. As chair, I thank each delegation for their presence and for their continued commitment to strengthening cooperation within the BRICS framework. All of us remain in close and regular contact through bilateral and multilateral engagements. Gathering today for the BRICS meeting is, however, a special occasion. It allows us to exchange perspectives and encourages us to develop convergences. And in this complicated and uncertain world, that is of ever greater importance.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 5-nation tour to the UAE, the Netherlands, Sweden, Norway and Italy is less about trade deals than about political positioning, projecting India as a stabilizing power in a fractured global order. Modi's first stop is the UAE, and this underscores India's intent to anchor itself in Gulf politics at a time of heightened Iran tensions. Beyond energy, the visit signals alignment with Abu Dhabi's broader security posture and reinforces India's role as a political stakeholder in Middle East stability. UK Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch intensified pressure on Prime Minister Keir Starmer today, pointing out that even some Labour MPs have publicly urged him to step down. Badenoch accused Starmer of failing to maintain credibility amid mounting controversies, arguing that his leadership has become untenable.
As I've already said, this is a highly unusual moment. The Prime Minister is in office, but not in power. Everyone is trying to pretend it's all right. It's not all right. In the past 48 hours, nearly 100 Labour MPs have called for the Prime Minister to resign. 4 ministers have quit. It is clear his authority has gone, and that he will not be able to deliver what little there is in this King's Speech. This is a government less than 2 years in office, which has already run out of ideas and run out of road. So how did we get here? There is a great line in the musical Hamilton, Mr. Speaker. Winning is easy, governing is harder. Everything that has gone wrong in Labour's first 2 years comes back to one problem: They came into office.
Bulgarian diplomat Nikolay Mladenov, serving as lead envoy of the Board of Peace, delivered a detailed press briefing today in Jerusalem, presenting an international framework for Gaza's post-war future. Mladenov emphasized that the plan is designed to balance humanitarian recovery with long-term governance and security arrangements. He described the framework as a multi-phase roadmap involving reconstruction, political stabilization, and regional guarantees.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And let me begin first by apologizing for being late for this meeting. I just concluded a meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu, which is part of our regular consultations with all sides. And as you said, we're shuttling in between Israel, Egypt, and many other places in the Middle East to try and make sense of the whole situation and how we move forward in order to help the people of Gaza. But if there's one thing that we cannot succeed with, that is fighting Jerusalem traffic. So apologies again for the delay. I've really wanted to have this conversation for quite some time, and there is really...
Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan met Greek Foreign Minister Yoyos Hierapetridis in Athens today, May 14, 2026, for high-level talks focused on energy, defense, and regional security amid escalating Middle East tensions. The two sides signed a visa exemption agreement and discussed extending Greece Patriot missile defense deployment in Saudi Arabia.
Signing ceremony of agreement in my news. Signing of the agreement between the government of the Hellenic Republic and the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on the exemption from visa requirements for holders of diplomatic service and special passports. Signed by His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Georgios Hierapetridis, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Highness Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud.
Up next is your business news. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has defended South Africa's Black economic empowerment policy, rejecting claims that it is an impediment to growth. Addressing critics amid renewed debate over transformation, President Ramaphosa insisted that BEE remains essential for correcting historic injustice and ensuring inclusive participation in the economy.
I'd like to address this issue that is always thrown about BEE being an impediment to the growth of our economy. It is false, it is lies, and it is just a slogan. It has become a slogan. An honorable member, I'd like to give you just one example, just one sector, and that sector is mining. Pre-1994, and being an organizer of mine workers, I should know. Pre-1994, the mining industry in our country was just controlled by 6 mega companies. They held all the mineral rights in South Africa, and they were tending to hold them in perpetuity.
Nigeria has signed a landmark deal with 2 Chinese firms to revive its long idle state refineries, marking a fresh attempt after more than $25 billion in failed rehabilitation efforts. The agreement covers the Port Harcourt and Warri refineries, aiming to restore domestic fuel production and expand petrochemical capacity. Ghana's cocoa sector is facing acute financial distress in 2026 with liquidity failures, payment arrears, and stranded beans at ports, creating uncertainty for farmers and buyers. The government is planning a $1 billion local bond sale to stabilize funding, but structural challenges remain. In February 2026, Ghana cut the official farm gate price by 30% to 41.392 Ghana cedis per ton, but they still carried a $597 per ton premium above global benchmarks, making procurement unviable for buyers. About 50,000 tons stuck at ports, 330,000 tons of deliveries missed or delayed against a 650,000 ton target for 2025-26. And here's a recap on the headlines. ANC Secretary General says efforts to remove Ramaphosa doomed to fail. Washington imposed sanctions on Kabila for alleged M23 support. BRICS foreign ministers confront global instability in New Delhi talks. Nigeria seeks Beijing's help in refinery rehabilitation drive. And that concludes today's updates from around the globe. My name is Joy Dube, reporting for Level Set News. Thank you for tuning in and have a great afternoon further.